In this book, Emotional Agility, author and PhD Susan David discusses dealing with emotions. She brings to light the importance of identifying and working through our emotions and interpreting their meaning. The major concepts Miss David discussed in this book are how to unhook, show up, step out, walk your why, move on, and thrive. Many of us hide our emotions instead of confronting them to determine their impact. That usually causes problems now and in the future. Some emotions that Susan David discusses have a negative connotation, including anger, sadness, fear, one of my favorites, disgust, surprise, which is negative and positive in some cases. She states that although these emotions are labeled negative, it's not necessarily a bad thing. For instance, if you go around happy all the time, you don't always take the time and thoughtfulness to consider the situation. Her examples include partying too much, eating too much, and engaging in unprotected sex. Along with these, I'd add driving recklessly and excessive shopping. When we are experiencing the negative or not so happy emotions, we are actually more contemplative in considering our surroundings and situations. In Chapter 3, Susan David states, our so-called negative emotions encourage slower, more systematic cognitive processing. We rely less on quick conclusions and pay more attention to the subtle details that matter. She goes on to say that negative moods summon a more attentive, accommodating thinking style that leads you to really examine facts in a fresh and creative way. Chapter 4 is titled Showing Up. In this section, Susan David discusses the importance of facing your issues and dealing with them. She goes on to say that even though we are good at being there for others, we're not always good at forgiving ourselves. She says we get hooked on emotional feelings and struggle to get off that hook. In the example she provided, she was angry with a fellow professor for trying to steal some of her work for a paper that he was doing. She felt she had to suppress her feelings toward him as it wouldn't be considered professional. She ended up taking it out on her husband, and he had to bear the brunt of her emotions. Unfortunately, this is one of my negative personality traits as well. At work, I like to think that I've earned opportunities when they come up. When someone else is awarded a project or a trip that I wanted, I don't often think they have earned it, but since they asked for it, they get it. I come home on those days and usually let my husband have it for something else completely. Fortunately, he knows by now that I just need to blow off steam, so he lets me. I'm typically an optimistic person, so except in rare circumstances, perhaps when I'm feeling sad about something or my day has gotten out of control and isn't going my way at all, I look at situations and life in general in a positive manner. However, I have a coworker who isn't so optimistic. At times, his negative interpretation of things can be very defeating. For example, we could both go to the same meeting and hear the same discussion about a reorganization within our department. He comes back to his desk and starts packing things up because he's certain he's going to be laid off. When I ask him what's up, he says with the new manager coming, he's sure he's gone. I remind him that we didn't like the old manager, and since no one has come to take away our desk and chairs, it's just best to keep our head down and get to work. There's only 2 of us who do our job in the entire company, and they'll have to be pretty hard-pressed before they come to tell us we're no longer needed. It takes him several days to work through these situations, and needless to say, it makes for a stressful work environment. In addition to that, he suffers from severe heartburn, back problems related to stress, and he gets migraines. He misses work because of that, and it's really just not worth it. At work, when I see my friend get stressed and have out-of-control worry about things that may or may not happen, I tell him to take a walk. It's become a little bit of a joke between us now, but I guess it's similar to Susan David's guideline in Chapter 5 entitled Stepping Out. She indicates people should step away from the situation to get a better perspective. When we go for a walk at work, we take the opportunity to step away from the situation that's causing us stress. Without even realizing it, we're practicing mindfulness because we take the time to consider what's really important to us during that quiet time away. Should I really get worked up because that someone scheduled my entire day again without asking me? Probably not. To get started with your practice of emotional agility, Susan David suggests that we take ownership of our own development. We should also accept ourselves as we are and embrace the changes we notice during our journey. It is important to let go of goals that no longer serve us and realize that part of being human is experiencing failure and disappointment. Don't try to be perfect. Be courageous, not fearless. Or to quote David, courage is not an absence of fear. Courage is fear walking. And finally, appreciate your life. It won't be here forever. What I found most compelling about this book is the idea of stopping to evaluate my emotions and what impact they have on the decisions I make on a daily basis. Most of the choices I make regularly don't require much consideration, but if I'm making a big choice that will involve money or my career or a big change for my family, I'll make sure that I'm in a good frame of mind in the future.